Someone you love is going to die. You already know this. You carry it with you every single day, buried just beneath the surface of every ordinary moment. But here is the strange part. The grief you feel, the rituals you perform, the flowers you lay down, and the words you speak over a grave, none of that is modern. None of that is civilized. It is ancient, far older than you have ever been told. The real story of how humans dealt with death does not begin with religion. It does not begin with language. It begins in a cave in South Africa, 100,000 years ago, before cities, before farming, before any of the structures you associate with human culture even existed. And what archaeologists found there rewrote everything. Your brain is wired to resist death, not just to fear it, to refuse it. When someone in your group disappears, your nervous system does not simply accept the absence. It searches, it replays, it expects them to return. Psychologists call this continuing bonds theory, first formalized by Dennis Klaas and his colleagues in 1996, and it describes how the human mind maintains an internal relationship with the dead long after the body is gone. This is not a malfunction, it is ancient software. It kept your ancestors alive. Think about what death meant in a small prehistoric band of 30 people. When someone died, the group did not just lose a person. It lost knowledge, hunting routes, plant locations, alliances with other bands. The grief your ancestors felt was not only emotional, it was existential, a threat to the group's survival. So they developed something no other animal had developed before. They started doing something with the body. The School Cave in Israel holds some of the earliest known evidence of intentional human burial, dating back roughly 100,000 years. Archaeologists Ofer Bar Yosef and Bernard Vandermeersch documented the remains of at least 10 individuals laid in the ground with deliberate care. Some had animal bones placed beside them. One skeleton held the jawbone of a wild boar. These were not random arrangements, these were choices. Someone stood over that body and decided what it should carry into wherever it was going. Why bury at all? The practical answer is hygiene and predators. A body left in the open is a danger and a beacon. But hygiene does not explain the objects. Hygiene does not explain the positioning. The bodies curled on their sides, knees drawn up, in what researchers call a fetal position, as if placed deliberately into a posture of sleep, or birth, or return. Something more was happening. That something is what archaeologist Paul Pettit, author of The Paleolithic Origins of Human Burial, calls mortuary behavior. The idea that prehistoric humans were not just disposing of the dead, they were thinking about them. Thinking about what the dead were, where they went, whether they could still hear you. 75,000 years ago, at Border Cave in South Africa, a Homo sapiens infant was buried with a perforated conus shell, a piece of jewelry, placed deliberately with a child who never lived long enough to wear it. The gesture is so human, it almost stops you breathing. Someone grieved that child. Someone wanted that child to have something beautiful. And it was not only Homo sapiens who did this. The Shanidar Cave in Iraq holds the remains of Neanderthals buried between 65,000 and 45,000 years ago. Ralph Selecki, who excavated the site in the 1950s, famously reported that pollen clusters around one skeleton suggested the body had been laid on a bed of flowers. Later researchers debated whether the pollen was deposited by rodents. The argument has never been fully settled. But the graves themselves, the deliberate placement, the arrangement of limbs, those are not contested. Neanderthals buried their dead. The instinct to do something with the body, to mark the ending, appears to predate our species entirely. What were they afraid of? Probably the same thing you are. Not just death itself, the ambiguity of it. The moment when someone who was present becomes permanently absent is one the human mind has never been fully able to process. Anthropologist Ernest Becker argued in his 1973 Pulitzer Prize-winning work that the entire architecture of human culture, art, religion, legacy, achievement, is built on a single foundation: the terror of personal annihilation. Your ancestors could not think their way out of death, so they built rituals around it, stories around it, structures that made it bearable. Those structures changed across time. By 30,000 years ago, burials had become elaborate, bodies painted in red ochre, the color of blood and life. Ivory beads placed around wrists and ankles, animal teeth draped across chests. These were not just expressions of grief, they were statements. This person mattered. This person is being remembered. This person is being sent somewhere, and they are being sent properly. The oldest known cemetery in the world, Tafaralt in Morocco, dates to roughly 15,000 years ago. Bodies buried there show signs of community, multiple generations interred together in the same location across time. People were returning to bury their dead alongside earlier dead. They were building a place of memory. They were insisting on continuity even in the face of endings. That insistence is still in you. Every gravestone, every funeral, every photograph kept long after the person in it is gone. The flowers you lay down, the silence you observe, the name you say out loud when no one is listening. All of it traces back to a hand in a cave, placing a shell beside a child who would never grow up. Someone you love is going to die. You already know this. What you may not have known, until right now, is that the grief you will carry was never a weakness. It was the first and oldest human technology, the way your ancestors turned loss into memory, and memory into survival. You are not mourning alone. You never were.